Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. This is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with another weekly astrology update. So we are going to talk about, on today's episode, a few things. First of all, we are going to talk about Venus moving into Aquarius, which happened last week, and it immediately conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. What does that mean? We're going to talk about Mercury retrograde, which has been going opposite Jupiter this whole time. What does that mean? Venus in Aquarius going opposite Mars and Leo, which happens today, December 12th. December 13th, we got Venus in Aquarius sextiling Mercury in Sagittarius. Sunday, December 15th, we got the full moon in Gemini. And on the same day, Mercury stations direct in Sagittarius. That's a good thing. Even though this full moon sounds a little wild, I'm telling you it is a good thing that Mercury is stationing direct instead of stationing retrograde the day of this full moon in Gemini. Now, there's one extra message I want to add about Mars retrograde. If you didn't listen to my episode last week, or actually I posted on Monday, go listen to that Mars retrograde in Leo so you can get a general idea about what these next 2 months are going to look like. But this is something I was thinking about after I released and thinking about Mars retrograde. If you do the right thing, there shouldn't be a lot of issues. Yes, there's things outside of ourselves that we cannot control, but make sure you do the right thing. However, do the right thing. That's all you need to know, and you will survive Mars retrograde. Mars naturally does not want us to do the right thing. That is the planet that's the shit stirrer. That's the planet that brings up that harder, uglier sides that we all have, that darker side. Mars is like, yeah, I'm going to do bad stuff, and I'm going to love it. So this retrograde could have us, returning to something that we previously didn't do the right thing for, and now we have to change that in order to do the right thing. But in general, if you're presented with two choices, pick the one where you do the right thing, and you should be fine. This retrograde shouldn't be as hard as it could be if you do the right thing. Just remember that. Do the right thing. Now, with Venus in Aquarius is such an interesting place for Venus to be. We can be, in general, realistic about a relationship, no more up in the clouds, getting factual with it, choosing to dress funkier or wanting to stand out more, opening your mind up to different avenues of fun, seeking more freedom in a relationship, friendship, etc. Now, I said wanting to stand out and be funkier because Aquariuses are really interesting since they're both ruled from Saturn, so very traditional, yet they have this Uranus flavor as well, so kind of like wanting to stand out and different. They're almost the ones who they don't want to fully put themselves out there, but if you look at them, they want people to think like, ooh, they're interesting. Ooh, they're different. Ooh, but they're not like in your face the way maybe a Gemini would be, but they are sort of otherworldly. They're like aliens. I feel like of all the astrology, Aquariuses are the aliens of the astrology. So Venus will conjunct Pluto as soon as it moved in last week. So these are sort of themes of last weekend and earlier this week, but it will be co-present with Pluto, so this sort of kicked off this transit. Wanting to return to old values while maintaining an open-minded approach. Desire to break free from a habit, love, social construct, or other energy that is holding you back. Feeling overwhelmed with electric energy. Breaking out of the old constructs someone placed on you and caused you to believe. Detaching with power, feeling like you really want to control something and someone. Now, these themes sort of tie into today's Venus going opposite Mars retrograde in Leo. So there can be challenges between the masculine and the feminine. We can see that out in the world, the workplace, even something simple like in the street. Sometimes this will show up. Like you're walking down the street and you see, maybe a sign for women's rights. A woman's holding a sign for women's rights and a guy comes by and is like, fuck women's rights or something along those lines. You could see it as simple as that. And it can also be playing out internally within you and within your own home. But really, my fixed signs are going to be feeling this one the most. So, and especially my Mars, my Leo people and my Aquarius people. So someone trying to control you or exert their will onto you, when it comes to you doing things that you enjoy or things that were pleasures and someone's trying to control you with that or trying to shift that for you, feeling forced to conform to something, quick bursts of arguments, pent-up aggression, getting more active where you're normally introverted with your social life, forced out of your comfort zone, feeling overwhelmed or totally all over the place, finding your hidden power and strength. And again, do the right thing. Okay? That's what I want you guys to remember. Do the right thing. It's so easy to do the wrong thing, honestly. And our brains will convince us that doing the wrong thing is okay. That's why it's so tricky. Sometimes just put a note, do the right thing. I have seen people, I've seen myself, and I'm like, whoa, my brain is like trying to convince me that it is okay that I'm doing this when deep down it's really not. So that's where the brain gets a little tricky with that. And you know what I'm talking about if you know. It can say, well, you deserve this. You want this, or it's a resentment, whatever it is. Do the right thing and pay attention to your mind, because your mind can trick you into thinking you are doing the right thing when you are not. Mercury in Sagittarius going opposite Jupiter in Gemini, and so that has been a big theme this whole Mercury retrograde, and luckily it stations direct on Sunday. So a lot of the energy, my mutable signs are feeling this the most: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. This has been a big theme of this retrograde, which I talked about in an earlier episode. This energy really added an intense, all over the place, almost manic energy, especially for my mutable sign people. Not sleeping well, yet having a ton of energy to keep going. I know me, salon's been crazy busy. It always is, every time of this year. Kids are very busy. I'm very busy. I haven't been sleeping well. And it has, especially Mercury, my ruling planet, going opposite Jupiter. However, I just can keep going. I wake up and I'm like, all right, I've been up since 4 a.m, but I'll get out of bed and I have the energy to do it, which I don't normally always do. But that Jupiter and Gemini is bringing that extra energy. Also, truth was the biggest theme of this retrograde, with Mercury going opposite Jupiter, bringing to light the truths within ourselves, others, worldly truths, spiritual truths. What a lot of us have experienced over these last few weeks are feeling lost and confused, especially my mutable placements. Blurred or confused messages, scrambled words, speaking with emotions, not the mind. So speaking with the emotions, not the mind. Feeling desperate to make change. Finally feeling compelled to find your faith again, suddenly. Feeling overwhelmed, cause you to, you're kind of all over the 10 places at once. Wanting to change your life storyline or plot line, but have a million ideas and don't know where to restart. So the full moon in Gemini on Sunday, December 15th, on the same day that Mercury stations direct in Sagittarius. I feel like this is going to be less chaotic as a normal full moon in Gemini, since Mercury is stationed direct. However, if this was happening in the middle of this retrograde, or just as Mercury was stationing retrograde, it would be a lot crazier of a full moon. But this full moon is really a mindset restarter. We got all scrambled up during the retrograde, but sometimes you need a good scrambling or shake up to have a restart, to have especially a mental restart with this. So here's some of the themes. All the chaos makes sense, especially the mental chaos. One final truth, or the truth is revealed that you need. Forced into structure. Okay, that's Saturn and Pisces. So Saturn and Pisces has been making all of us mutable signs somehow find boundaries, find structure, find those type of things. Understood communication. Any communication blocks with, that you maybe got brought up during this time will be moved, or be like, okay, they're not there anymore. Busting open with mental creativity. Any mental blocks around creativity will be busted open with this full moon. And blocked spiritual energy will be open and flooding again. This full moon is something that we want to do, something that's very mentally engaging. With the full moon, the energy will be very fast. Not as fast as, it could come two ways, actually, as I'm thinking about it. Not as fast as it would be like if Mercury was stationing direct in Sagittarius, but stationing retrograde. But I feel like when Mercury stations direct, it slows down. So there's going to be energy and intense, and it will be fun, and it will be a little bit all over the place, but not as scattered, and very reasoning, not hyper energy, but we'll have the flow with that, if that makes sense. I'm like, did that all come out? So on that day, you will have the energy, but your mind will be with it more. It won't be so chaotic and all over the place. So it's a time to engage with people, do something mentally stimulating. What gets your mind working? Having great conversations. This is one of those full moons that what's going to jumpstart your mind is going to be those really big, awesome connection conversations, the kind where you're having a deep connection, a deep understanding, and also talking about really interesting sort of things. So that's how we want to celebrate this full moon. Now, something I want to talk about I thought was sort of interesting, and I couldn't find it, but people have been talking about what the astrology is of this Luigi guy and that killed the CEO. And I think this has been a really interesting thing to happen during Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius going opposite Jupiter and Gemini, because it's a very, like, his plan was very Gemini-like. If you know Geminis, it was very methodical. It was very planned out. It was very fantasy-like, and getting caught up in the fantasy of something, like, what is the truth? And in a big way, you know, saying, like, this is the truth of the normal middle class or poor Americans, you know, we can't get this healthcare, so I'm just going to be this vigilante and just, you know, show people like we're fed up and kill a CEO, and then have this crazy plan to hide it and or to even be caught. And so I was reading something else about, because it's sort of like, I thought, like the rest of us, has been a really interesting storyline to play out, right? It's very fantasy-like, it's very movie-like, which is, again, very Sagittarius, very Gemini-like. And something he exactly was like, there was a number, 286. I meant to screenshot it last night. I was going to bed and I didn't, but apparently I saw it on Threads. Apparently he was found in McDonald's in Altoona, which I just want to remind you guys, I grew up 45 minutes from that McDonald's, towards the Pittsburgh side. It was like 286 miles or 76 miles from the shooting. He had downloaded 276. He had done all of these methodical things that all equaled that number. And I thought, okay, that's very interesting. Again, this whole plot line went very into this whole murder plot line, went very much into the energy of between Gemini and Sagittarius and this Mercury retrograde going opposite Jupiter. And I was like, I knew someone who went to college with him because he went to Penn, and my client was in, and it was her son. And she graduated with him from Penn and said he was actually quite a genius, like extremely smart. He wrote some wild paper that he had read. He was in classes. So, and very nice. You know, a lot of people have a lot of things to say, but I don't know, this energy, he must have some Gemini placements. And like I had said, Jupiter in Gemini, most of the time it's good, but sometimes it can really bring out mental illness. It can bring out truths that aren't real. Like I said, this retrograde was about truths that aren't real and those showing up. And what is truth to people? What does that look like? So lots of thoughts. I wish I would have wrote down more of my thoughts about this, but I just thought that was really interesting, because I'm sure everyone that's been listening to this has been following along with this CEO murder. I mean, it's sad. I feel bad for his family and everything, but it is interesting to listen to or read about. That's just how I feel. Don't crucify me. Don't crucify the messenger. It's just interesting. So I hope everyone has a fabulous week, a good full moon. Go out there and celebrate this full moon by getting your mind activated and having all the right conversations. That's going to be a big theme. You're having all the right conversations that you need. I love you all. I will be back next week. Again, thank you for being patient with me, which some of these have been a little scattered, but I really appreciate that. I love you all and have a great day.